I've got a migraine. I've been getting a lot more of them lately. I've been taking a lot of different drugs, and in this state of confused pain and delirium, I can't help but start to find connections. I cancelled on Emilia again today, because I woke up sick, and later when I can finally face the strobing of the screen, I take the opportunity to scan the images she sent of the fin spots of cichlids, for clues as to what I might have missed by not meeting her. I drift into Google image searches fixated on finding wilder and wilder patterns, which might appeal to the inner logic that the high of my medication is craving visually. Is it the drugs, or is it the books that I'm reading, which are making me think faster than I can write? Why is it that the knowledge I'm searching for is so far back in time? I can't stop buying books, and the more ancient the knowledge, the closer I seem to get. The sick days keep coming, and I keep self-medicating. I go on a retreat on the train. I look out the windows at the networks of fields and their organic borders. I give up meat with its weird striated muscular structure, whilst I think about these fish and their patterns. They all seem to look the same. I start looking closer. As I sit in this rare books archive, I notice the similarity of the quadrant grid I have tattooed on my arm to the stretched Cartesian space mapping this one fish onto another. A transformation of morphology. The soft, malleable lines seem to envelop both me and the fish simultaneously, uniting us in a shared morphoscape, which defies, and yet more confusingly, confirms the conflicting and true laws of physics, of chemistry, of biology, of maths. These used to be one thing, didn't they? And now it seems increasingly arbitrary they would be separated. To be honest, I'm pissed off that I'm thinking about Descartes again, but the information just keeps looping back around. I stretch out to almost touch the glass on the pet shop fish tank of a beautiful, mature pufferfish, whose eyes have that sad, knowing, human look of the dolphin in the text version of Annihilation, as they make eye contact with the biologist, who is becoming contaminated with the genetic materials of flora and fauna around her. I identify with this contamination as the fungal logic of the medicine creates a kind of euphoric, empathetic, biological becoming. The stretch I take towards her changes the grid on my arm again. The seemingly well-behaved, rational, flat screen of the glass is simultaneously defied by its unruly morphing contents, marked by rippling, tree-like dendrite patterns, both regular and irregular. I used to think of these bacterio shapes as belonging to Dupasquier or Sotsas. They looked so computer-made, these algorithms and logarithms. How wrong. The two skin patterns, hers and mine, communicate through some kind of higher but lower law under my nose, confirming how little I know of the world. Later on in the supermarket I struggle to buy mackerel, settling for taking it home, only to find I have lost my appetite, and I instead find myself studying its glistening skin for hours. I try and read Turing's morphology paper from 52. It's been coming for some time, this task. As I read, I grow distracted. I grieve a little for his life, for the cultural battle against types of relations, the so-called unnatural, just as he contemplates growth itself. He asks me to follow. His language asks for just a basic grasp, but it's still too hard. Is it the drugs again? I meet a physicist who explains to me how it works, shows me simulations. Well done, humans, always copying. But I muted my recorder accidentally, so now I can only rely on a memory and diagrams that seem to elucidate some reason why everything becomes what it becomes. So there is an equation, a wave. Let's call it an approaching Armageddon of the environment and its inevitability. Everything around us is working at a chemical level, by laws which push things forwards. Cells are coded to force growth and change, and that we can see this physically as morphology as it manifests in the patterns around us. The front of this wave is the tip of a leaf or the end of a finger. This wave is moving. It contains one chemical, a reactor, then following straight behind it, another, a diffuser. Reactors grow, diffusers follow, copying and dissipating. These two are cyclical, self-governing, self-producing, lunar like a tide. In every living thing, it is like the lights are switching on, with an inbuilt mechanism to then switch back off again. The on-off of all growth and all patterns. The physicist shows me a matrix of possibilities, a graph, just like Descartes predicted, a scale, just like in Thomson's folders upon folders of self-similar picture shapes. Yes, a giraffe skin is a dried claybed. Depending on how fast something is switched on or off, it forms into a worm, or a spot, or a stripe, or a tree. Rates of decay, these are called. A spot is nearly a stripe is nearly a tree is nearly a spiral, is nearly a hexagon, is nearly a circle, is a spot. So the behaviour of living things makes the patterns that cover the world. They are always different, but always familiar. They are always the same laws. The surface tension of water molecules and the angle at which they meet any given surface governs the veins of a leaf. The capillary action carrying their water content echoes the path of the nap and snap of a flintstone tool. The economical arrangement of blood vessels under the translucent skin of a newborn baby. The division of embryo cells into neat hexagonal efficiency. The shape of the miniature marine radiolaria that thrive and die to fertilise the Amazon basin. That the same force of gravity acting on a water droplet is the curve of the hang of the ribs from the sternum. I used to look around and see a world designed by humans for humans. Then I looked again and saw that this was biomimicry. Then again, and found the not-so-secret agency in the stuff itself and how it will outlive us, cleverly. Now, everything I look at is changing again. I see the very self-similarity of this stuff in action. In every object, branch, celestial body. I see that it is designing us, and our barely capable attempts at imitating are merely a game of catch-up, like that second chemical wave in our cells, the off switch in the pattern. All our attempts at learning are merely just doing what cells already know how to do. I'm asking my neural pathways to produce what mycelium do without work. When I'm sick, I'm closer to the reality somehow. The way we medicate with these cohabiting organisms in our bodies, the way we learn from them. Are the drugs telling me something? Of course, maths is a kind of philosophy. What was I expecting? It's also very efficient, saying the least, the most concisely, but still meaning everything. I keep looking back at the stretched grid. poorly copying the sophisticated rearrangement of crystals in a metal as it heats, or former living organisms gracefully lying down forever in rock sediment as it restratifies. All our human thought grids have stretched. The geological shear of Thompson's transformed angelfish is the same one that rearranges whole epochs and places various organisms into impossible and thrilling new co-combinations with one another. A mathematical model transforms one species into another, one colour into another in the cell walls. A radial curve in the gravitational field of the Earth pulls objects closer in, and also makes them speed up in time. String theory links otherwise unrelated matter, and string figuring reasons through the learned intelligence of an octopus or a squid, which itself actively strobes with reaction diffusion coursing through its surface in front of us. Does it matter that Turing was suddenly fascinated with the organic and how it grows after the knowledge of the enigma? That knowing coding, maths, chemistry, and now biology only brought him closer to knowing the most basic way the world works? That he could see that complex biological patterns were the precedent for the computers he built? That whilst all this biomimicry was taking place, he was not only thinking about complicated genetics, but also facing his own sterilisation, and that this is where his work and life ended. That trauma is embedded in our RNA. That we pass this on transgenerationally. That the physical laws of environments themselves trigger chemical reactions. That we are produced by chemical reactions. That we are trauma, but also growth is already in us, and even if we don't learn it, it will exist. That this doesn't make us human or even alive, it simply makes us matter.